Hi, my name is Patty Carasato, and I am here to do the parent spotlight for the SEAC committee in East Greenwich. So I'm so happy to have this opportunity to talk about conscious discipline and what that means and all of the wonderful things that I have learned on my journey. And I will be brief as I can be. It is a wonderful program that I'm about to talk about, but I'm just going to give you a little tidbit of something just to plant a seed. Maybe it might be of interest to you. Again, my name is Patty, and I have three kids that have all gone through the East Greenwich School District. My son Kyle graduated in 2012. My daughter Kristen graduated in 2016. And I have a son, Matthew, who is presently at the high school as a junior, who is in the special education department. I'm also a unified volleyball coach, and I've been a coach for, I think, 11 years. This was my 11th year, which is very exciting for me. It's a program I am very passionate about. And I'm also a coach for the North Kingstown Special Olympics, as well as a unified partner. So I'm very involved with Special Olympics and unified programs and inclusion as well. I'm also a teacher. I was a teacher in Providence prior to my going to Narragansett about 3 years ago. So I'm a preschool, early childhood special education teacher in Narragansett. So that's just a quick synopsis of me. Again, I have watched the other videos of the other parents who've done their spotlights, and they've been wonderful. It's been so exciting to see all of their innovative ideas and what they do. And I took some knowledge of that, so I really appreciate that. So hopefully, my opportunity here will give you a little bit of knowledge of something you might not be familiar with. And so let me go right jumping into this right now. So conscious discipline is an adult first, trauma informed response approach to self regulation that integrates social emotional learning, and it involves creating equitable school culture. It is based on theory and application, and it is a brain based research approach to discipline. It builds a path that builds resilience, and it creates sustainable change. It helps us move from an unconscious brain state to a more aware state. And once we become more conscious of ourselves, we can be at a higher level of understanding of others. For example, if we react to our children when we have an upset brain, we're going to do that in an unconscious state. And a child is just really going to mirror what we are presenting to them. A child can never be in a higher brain state than you are. So, whatever you're doing with your child, they can't be in a higher, they can't problem solve without you being able to problem solve, is basically what I'm talking about. Um, it integrates social emotional learning with disciplinary practices to create optimal learning environment for both children and adults. And it's a shift between traditional discipline, which is being compliant, obedient type of discipline, to a type of discipline to build relationship based model of discipline. So I'll give you a few different scenarios of the differences between traditional based discipline and conscious discipline. So in the traditional model, which I grew up on, it's founded on rules that are upheld through reward and punishment. The goal is to obtain obedience, and those who are compliant get the rewards, and those who are not are punished. So, fear is a tool used to empower and take control of others. And this system is built on three major components. So, in traditional, the belief is it's possible to control others through environment and manipulation. It is a belief that I can make you change. And as adults, it teaches us failure to make others change equals failure on our part. So, you can walk away with, why didn't they do that? I feel so horrible about myself. Um, and so that is that type of discipline. So in conscious discipline, it's possible to change ourselves. So that's the belief. It is our choice whether or not we want to change, and we're empowered to control ourselves instead of others. And the power comes within us. In traditional, rules govern behavior. So rules and consequences are the foundation of traditional behavioral discipline. Children must feel bad to learn how to behave better in the future, for example. If we rely on just those consequences, though, um, we're not going to obviously get the perfect behavior at all times, and we're not short of rules in our society, obviously. We have many prisons that are overfilled, and we do rules and governing and all of that, but still that does not help. So in conscious discipline, what governs the behavior is creating a relationship with one another. These relationships govern the behavior, as opposed to rules governing the behavior. Our relationship with one another will give us the willingness to want to resolve our conflicts. For example, when you're connected with your spouse and they ask you to go get something from the refrigerator, you're going to say, "Sure, honey, what would I like?" However, if it's a day that you may have had an argument, or you haven't seen each other and you just feel very isolated, when they ask, "Hey, would you mind getting me something from the refrigerator?" What are you going to say? "No, get it yourself." So obviously, our relationship is governed by our behavior. So our relationship in that moment of time governed our behavior at that time. And so the third difference in traditional is conflict is a disruption to learning process. So a lot of times we want to just get rid of the conflict and it's too painful to deal with. And conflict represents hurtful things, screaming, yelling, possible days of intense silence. We want to do anything to avoid that conflict. And we do this by giving rewards and punishment to our children. So, for example, if you want to say to your child, if you're good this morning, when you get home, you're going to get a sticker. Or if in school, if the teacher says, if you get your work done, then you're going to go to recess. If you don't get your work done, we're going to take recess away. So it is based on external models of reinforcers that govern the response. So that's that reward system or that punishment system. However, in conscious discipline, it helps you perceive conflict differently. It helps you look at a child or even another adult as missing a skill. And it helps you learn the skill for not only yourself, but more importantly, others. So, conflict is an opportunity to grow. So, as a teacher myself, I actually love conflict in my classroom because that gives me an opportunity to teach a missing skill that that child or those children may not have. I do this not only for my children in my classroom, I do this for my own family. I do it for the kids and adults that I coach in Special Olympics. So it is it it is an opportunity to build a relationship with others and then teach the skill so we can create these wonderful adults that are able to problem solve and get through these difficult times. So so within those relationships, you can have both connection and conflict can coexist together in a healthy and growth oriented way. So it relies on internal responses. So that's that internal. So once children begin to understand this, they begin to be able to self regulate, and then they can take these skills and not rely on those other external rewards. Uh, so the three core concepts of conscious discipline are building safety, connection, and problem solving. And each one of these are the core concepts that focus on a skill to help children. It creates power within a conscious adult. And it also helps us understand what brain states we're in. So, again, this is a brain based program. Conscious discipline helps us build stronger connections with our children, with our coworkers, with our family, with our adult children, anybody. It also creates attunement, in which is the state of recognizing, understanding, and engaging in someone else's emotional state. So not only understanding your emotional state, but also understanding where others may be at that moment. It encourages cooperation. It builds that cooperation with others, and it's also one on one time with eye contact, touch, presence, playful situations, which we talk what we somewhat call I love you rituals and conscious discipline. But any of those connections with adults and other older children can happen. It just may look a little different. So, when teaching conscious discipline, we start with learning about the three brain states and learning about what our brain has gone through in our life experiences. And becoming conscious of our state is the first step. So, we all bring so much to the table on what our life experiences has been. And so, knowing that and knowing what you bring, you're able to be more conscious of what state you might be when you're trying to help another child or another adult or a coworker or your spouse. So there's the survival state, which is in your brainstem. There's the emotional state, which asks, I want to be connected. That's in your limbic system, pretty far down in your brain. And then you have your prefrontal lobe, which is where all our brilliance happens and all our problem solving things happen in life. But a lot of that emotional state we live in throughout the day. I mean, over 80% of our thoughts throughout the day are kind of in that emotional state. And we call that, what is on your CD-ROM, and that brings everything from your childhood all the way to your adulthood, how you've learned to cope in life and all your experiences happen right there. So that brings a lot to the table when you're working with others. That automatically comes online when but it's an unconscious state. It just unconsciously happens. So I'm going off a little bit on on that part, but the next part of conscious discipline, what we teach is the steps of learning about the seven powers and skills of conscious discipline, which is a step-by-step procedure which helps us teach our children how to be more aware of our emotional state and how to self-regulate. And these skills are composure, encouragement, assertiveness, choices, empathy, positive intent, and consequences. So when I teach other teachers or I have a parent group that I do, there's very specific ways of how we go about in teaching all these skills and powers because they all build within each other. For example, the first power and skill that is taught is the power of perception and the skill of composure. So that is the most powerful one, and we start with that one after we teach all about the brain states. So the power of perception is no one can make you angry without your permission. And the goal of that is to take this responsibility for our own upset and turn it to and teach children to be responsible for their own behavior. So we're doing this by teaching composure. Teaching composure gives you access to the higher centers of your brain and it allows you to become the person you hope others will become. It requires self control and the belief that the only person you can change is yourself. So, how you choose to see conflict is the key. For example, if you're driving in the car and somebody cuts you off, which is obviously happening during this holiday season, obviously, or throughout the whole year, um, if you get upset about that, you're allowing that driver in that car to control your emotions at that moment. They actually have no right to control that, but they do at that moment. So, how are you going to get through that? You're going to have to get those skills of composure, taking those deep breaths, saying, I'm safe, I can handle that, talking to your brain and saying, hey, you know what? Maybe they're in a rush to get to see their mother who's in a senior center or, making up that story to relax your own brain because they have no right to control how you're feeling. But that's what naturally happens a lot of times. It's also important to keep in mind there is a difference between knowing and doing. For example, even though I know how to manage my upset as a parent and many times helpful ways to resolve conflict, it doesn't mean I always choose to do so. I've been practicing conscious discipline going on my 8th year right now. This is my second language, obviously, but it is still difficult. Ask my own, you can ask my children, you can ask my husband. However, continuing to learn how to embrace conflict, I'm passing on healthy conflict resolution skills to my children and modeling them that can become their first language, especially the kids I teach and I coach. I want that they become all of their first language. So it's that taking those deep breaths through your diaphragm, telling yourself, I'm safe. I can handle this. I got this. And taking those 3 deep breaths will turn off your stress response in your brain. So it's really important, especially during this holiday season. That might be the first skill I can teach you is to take 3 deep breaths through your diaphragm. So you're going to count to 4 and you're going to really fill up your belly. And you're going to really, if you put your fingers like this on your belly, what's going to happen is they're going to kind of spread apart if you're doing it from your diaphragm. You're going to relax your shoulders, your jaw, your eyes, and you're just going to breathe in. And then you're going to do a count of 6 breathing out. And you're going to do that 3 times and really relax. So, really be trying to become more conscious of your breathing will kind of help you get through some of these stressors, especially during the holiday season or any time, whether in your work area, whatever it may be, dealing with your child that, is having a difficult time. And then it's helping others notice too. For example, if when I'm talking with somebody, maybe a coworker or a friend of mine that's really having a stressful time and they're relaying this information with me, I naturally, now that I'm really in tune with my breath, I'm breathing for them and I'm relaxing. And then I'm modeling that and they're kind of seeing that just on my body. I'm not saying breathe with me, but they're kind of seeing that and eventually they're going to kind of relax by my presence of being calm. And then I can go ahead and listen and say, we got this. How can I be helpful to you? Or what can we do to kind of relax you and get through this very stressful time? So it is just these powers and skills teach children to name their emotions, regulate them, and then solve the problems. But for it to start for them, we need to offer the empathy and understanding, and we need to remain in the calm state. So we've all been through a lot of trauma this past 2 years, obviously. And so this is such a wonderful program because it really can target into kids and adults or whoever may it be that has been through trauma. Again, I just gave you a tiny bit of what it looks like, but it is amazing how your brain responds to trauma and how a child's brain responds to trauma, and you as an adult, and how you need to respond to them as well. Conscious Discipline has a wonderful website, and it's consciousdiscipline.com. There is free resources. There are resources for, there's a premium resource and all. I don't work for Conscious Discipline, but I just want you to know there is a wonderful website. There's YouTube videos out there on Conscious Discipline. There's podcasts. There's programs in e-series. And there's actually institutes that I've been through a few that are week-long institutes. Most of them happen in Florida in the summer, which isn't so bad near Disney. But I've been practicing, like I said, it was piloted in my program in Providence a few 7 years ago. Took me a few years. I was kind of skeptical at the beginning, but then when I went to the institute, I just said, "Oh my gosh!" And the first time I went, it was actually more about myself and my own learning and my own journey and my family before I even thought, "Oh my gosh, this is like applying to my children." So I can't speak any more highly of it. And because of that, I like to spread the news of conscious discipline. I've done parent series before, 5 to 7 week series of teaching, as well as again, teaching other professionals and paraprofessionals and anybody who's willing. So it's again just really wonderful. But I want you to know also it works with children with special needs. It works with kids that have autism. It works with kids that have other intellectual disabilities. It can work for any child, any adult. Will it look different with all children? It will. Will the language shift? It absolutely will. So even if you have a child that's a toddler and a child that is in high school, it still can work. That language that may look differently, but again, to remember that it comes from you within and how you react, and then you're bringing that to the child. So again, it can work with everybody. But if you want more information, obviously I'm in contact with Lisa, and we can give you some more information. So, but go ahead and look at that Conscious Discipline website. It is a lot. It can be overwhelming. There's a lot of book studies out there and books you can get, but I would be happy to connect with anybody who is willing. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to share a parent spotlight. I hope you all have a blessed, wonderful, and safe holiday season. And if you're around and see me, please say hello to me. I'd be happy to talk with you a little bit more if you want more information, like I said. And I think that's it. So again, thanks. Thanks for giving me this opportunity and sharing my experiences and my journey of conscious discipline with y'all. Bye.